welcome back to the Final Fantasy XIV Crafter's Guide series. This is Chapter 3. In this chapter we're going to cover the shared gear, we're going to cover materia and how to make money on it and how to also increase experience points that you get. We're also going to cover the Lev quests and some of the Grand Company dailies and some of the daily chores you can do for extra experience points while you're working on those check marks. Also going to cover another ability that you gained at level 15 that's going to start coming in handy soon. And finally we're going to talk about being able to take advantage of the open trade economy here in the game, how you can make some gil while you're leveling to help fund your crystals, which crystals, they can be very expensive, especially if you're not gathering them yourself. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to cover here in the chapter is another one of the abilities that you gained at level 15. This one comes from Weaver and it's called Careful Synthesis. Careful Synthesis is almost exactly identical to Basic Synthesis. The only difference is that it has 10% less efficiency, but its success rate is 100%. The nice thing about Careful Synthesis is that you don't need to save any steady hand stacks in order to finish your craft once you're done putting all of your CP into the high quality bar. Now I want to take a minute to go over gathering in Final Fantasy XIV. The two gathering jobs, Miner and Botanist, are unlocked in Ul'dah and Gridania. I'm not going to go into great detail about these in this guide because it's a crafting guide, but suffice to say that if you go and unlock those jobs and use the gathering log, which is in your main menu under the crafting log, you can use the gathering jobs right from the start to go get free crystal shards. Now we're going to get into crafting materia here, and if you don't know what materia is, don't worry, we're going to go over kind of the basics first. There are different types of materia in the game. Materia comes from when you take a piece of gear that you have spirit bonded to 100% and break it down into an essence. And that essence can then be melded onto another piece of gear to increase the attributes or the stats that that essence is made of. For the purposes of this guide, we're going to deal specifically in crafting materia. Now, crafting materia comes in a dark blue shade, and you'll always get a piece of crafting materia when you convert a piece of crafting gear. Now here's the reason why you share the gear among all the jobs. Ideally you want to level them together so that when each one of them gets to that higher tier of gear that you've created for them, you can then equip that new gear on all the jobs as they reach that tier and convert the older gear into materia. Crafting materia comes in three different forms. The three forms will either increase your CP, increase your craftsmanship rating, or increase your control rating. Now, the craftsmanship rating increase and the CP increase in the lower tiers are pretty worthless to EXPing, so you can just go ahead and list them up on the market board to sell them. There's some higher level gear that cap out pretty low, and so some people will be looking to buy those, and you can make some money there. Now, the ones that increase control, you should meld to that new higher tier gear that you have created for as you level up. Because the control stat directly affects all of the abilities that increase the quality bar on your crafting, by increasing your control through the materia that you receive from older gear, you'll be able to increase the total EXP you get per synth going forward. Now, in order to convert spirit bonded gear and be able to take the materia that you get as a result and put it onto different gear, you need to visit our friends over at the Bonfire. The Bonfire is in central Thanalan, and you're going to find a lot of NPCs there. They'll be highlighted with quest icons over their head, and these quests are pretty much just talk to them and then you complete the quest. By doing that, they'll unlock your ability to not only convert gear that's been completely spirit bonded into materia, they'll also give you the ability to meld that materia onto other gear. There is another NPC there that will teach you or get you on the road to teach you to desynthesize. If that's available for you now, go ahead and get that quest done so that you get it, and we're going to go over desynthesis in a later chapter. Now the last thing is just getting that materia melded. What you need in order to meld materia after you've done the quest is a catalyst. The catalyst comes in the form of carbonized matter. Each one of the materia grades has its own carbonized matter as a price in order to meld that materia. So if you have a grade 1 materia, you need a grade 1 carbonized matter. The nice thing is you can get a higher grade carbonized matter to meld a lower grade materia if you find that your market board is overpriced on the lower tiers. Once you've got the materia and the carbonized matter, all that's left to do is press that meld materia icon and then choose the piece of gear that you want to put a materia into. Finally choose the materia, and there you go. It'll give you a percentage of how successful you're going to be getting the materia in. Each one of the empty circles that you see on a piece of gear is how many guaranteed 100% slots that piece of gear can hold. Every piece of gear in the game that can hold materia can hold up to 5. Anything over the empty circles is called overmelding. And as you overmeld more, that percentage of success goes down. A side note on Materia Melding, if you have your challenge log unlocked, there is an experience points bonus that you can get once a week. The weekly challenge log resets on Tuesdays, and what it is if you meld 5 materia, the job that you are on that melds that 5th materia gets a bump in EXP. So a trick you can do is, if you have a job like armorer or carpenter that's lagging behind the other ones and you want to give it a quick EXP boost, make sure to be on that job when you ding that 5th materia for the week, and it'll get a nice boost of EXP from the challenge log. The next thing we're going to talk about here in the chapter is tradecraft levs. Now, tradecraft levs are a special kind of a lev quest given by NPCs. Basically, what they are is they ask you to make something, and when you bring it back to them, they give you EXP. Now, there's a couple of different tricks regarding lev quests, and learning them all will really help you take advantage of the way it's set up. The first thing you're going to want to know is that all of the rewards that you see given by lev quests can change. Not only can they change from being crystals to being materials, but they can also change and increase in quantity, up to 3 times more what it normally gives. The trick to doing lev quests is to kind of look through and find, for the jobs that you need EXP on, what's giving the reward you're looking for. And the second trick to tradecraft levs is what I like to call the rule of 3. Basically, there's 2 different types of items that an NPC can request for a lev quest: a completed piece of gear or a raw material. Now, if it asks you for a completed piece of gear, but it asks you for 3 of them, that means that the NPC will take for the 1 allowance up to 9, which means that you can take that EXP multiplied times 2 for an HQ, multiplied times 3 for turning in 9. The materials, they'll ask you for 5 up front, which means they'll take a total of 15. If they only ask you for 1 completed item or 3 materials, then they're only going to take 1 and 3. The rule of 3 applies when they ask you for 3 completed items or 5 raw materials. The only exception to this rule is in alchemy. In alchemy, completed items are done in 3s, and so if they ask you for 3, that means they're just asking you for 1. Using your lev allowances effectively involves really kind of picking and choosing based on whether you want to go for the big EXP all the time and always go by the rule of 3, or if you want to scalp big crystal rewards and try to get some crystals. Usually I would just recommend going for the rule of 3. The lev allowances don't come quickly. I believe you get 3 allowances every 6 hours. And the 100 that it caps at, you can burn through rather quickly trying to get all 8 jobs leveling. Now, another thing you want to start thinking about doing, especially if you built up your materials bank, is what I call Grand Company dailies. The Grand Company that you belong to has a daily list that resets every morning of things that it needs. And these things are basically items that you can craft that are within each one of the job's level ranges, so each job can turn in 1 item. Just like with tradecraft levs, if you turn in an HQ, you get twice as much experience points, and if it just so happens to have a gold star next to it, you'll get even more. The nice thing about tradecraft levs and Grand Company dailies is that the reward increases by the exponent of your level. Simplified, what that means is the higher your level, the more you get. So think of it as a percentage of the total EXP that you need to gain your next level. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about here in Chapter 3 is how to make money while you're EXPing. And making money is actually a lot easier than you think. The first thing you're going to want to look at is, while you're doing your check marks, as you unlock new pages in your crafting guide, go up to the market board for that level range. Each one of the crafting pages will tell you at the top what range these items are in. Go up to the market board and look in that level range and poke around and see if you can find anything that has a 0 listing. And if it has a 0 listing, it's not because no one wants to bother to make it, it's because someone bought the last one. By thinking of it this way, you can exploit what I call holes in the market board. What you have, someone else wants, and basically they'll buy it for right around the price that the history shows the last one sold for. Now, aside from selling the materia that you're not using and selling any check marks to fill holes in the market board, you can do some pretty cool things with selling on the market board for some of the older gear that you really aren't going to make a lot of EXP on anymore, but you may have some of that old material still sitting around. You can look around at some of the older lev quests, and there are some people who really will just take the advice of someone and spend all of their lev allowances at the beginning of the week, and then they'll wait a couple of weeks and spend all their level allowances again, and they're really not actively trying to level a crafter, they're just doing it passively through lev quests. These are the type of people that'll go to the market board and buy 12 or 13 of some ring or some other random turn-in for a lev quest just so they can do this activity. And you can take advantage of that by looking at the list of the different levs at the lower levels in the 10 and 15 range and finding some things that they're asking for. You definitely want to go by the rule of threes, though. These people that do this, they don't turn in one at a time. They'll turn in 9 at a time. So you can take a look at something like a brass ring or a bone hairpin and see that the market board has 15 of them for sale, but when you look at the history, you'll notice that all of the last 20 were bought on the same day. And the last way that you can easily make money while you're EXPing is through materials. Some of the older materials that you aren't using anymore, you can sell on the market board, and if it's an HQ material, sometimes people who are looking to boost up the initial quality bar when they start a harder synth are going to be looking for that HQ material. Obviously, if that person is looking for just one of an HQ cloth or an HQ ingot, they're not going to be interested in buying all 30 of them, so don't list them together. If you're looking just to fill a retainer, this is really the best way to do it. Now, if you're going and you're doing your quick synthesis, just to build your materials bank, set aside those HQs that you happen to get and list them on the market board one at a time. You'll find people are looking for these things in HQ because they're trying to make that one item and they want to get that boost in quality that you get by using a high quality material. And that does it for Chapter 3. You now know all the basics you need to get all of your crafting jobs through level 50, a major milestone since they all earn a new cross-class ability at that level. In the next chapter, we're going to go over some of those cross-class abilities and some of the beginning end-game combos, which eventually evolve as you gain more gear and more CP. We're going to go over the beginning of end-game with the Master Crafting books and the Master Crafting recipes. We're going to look at desynthesis and demi-materia. We hope this guide has been really helpful for you so far on your road to becoming an expert crafter. You'll find the next chapter here on the channel, and you can look forward to more guides like this about all aspects of Final Fantasy XIV, so don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching.